Hello, everybody. How you doing today? This is Sakoni Prince of SakoniPrince.com, where we make motivation personal, by introducing you to yourself. And I want to welcome you to the HEAL podcast. And HEAL is an acronym that stands for Help, Elevate, and Learn. And it's based on my book by the same name, and it's a guide for healing your inner child. But this podcast is to start the conversation about inner child healing, inner child wounds, and inner child trauma. And I cannot tell you how excited I am to have our guest on our show today. And listen, I'm going to share a quick clip from her Instagram page, which will do a little introduction for her, but then I can't wait to get on the screen. So check this out.
Hey there, my name is Elisa. I'm a men's mental health coach, and my goal is to help every single man feel heard, understood, and have access to the tools and resources that will help him understand his mental health on another level, to heal trauma that he's been through, to access purpose and passion that's inside of him. So whether you're new to this channel or not, know that this is a supportive place where you can show up in authenticity, you can ask questions without fear, and you can come together with other brothers to move forward in your journey. I'm always offering resources in the link in bio, starting from $9.97. I want to make sure this is accessible as possible. So I love you guys. I appreciate you. Let me know if you need anything, and keep kicking ass. Let's do this thing.
Well, as you can understand why I'm so excited to have her come up. But I do have to also add that we have a sponsor for our show today, and our sponsor is BetterHelp.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. First, you go to their site. You can use my link, betterhelp.com/SakoniPrinceHeal. You answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional who's had years of experience helping people with struggles just like yours. You can do it all from your phone or your computer, via a phone call, a video chat, or messaging. However you feel most comfortable. It is the easiest possible way to start talking to a therapist. You'll be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours, so you can get started fast. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/SakoniPrinceHeal or choose Sakoni Prince Heal during your sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month.
And as I said, we are so excited to have BetterHelp come alongside and partner with us in order to put on this podcast. But without further ado, I want to bring up our guest today, our special guest, Miss Elisa Micheals.
Hey everyone.
Hello, Elisa. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to have you, and I have been, hyping this up all week because I know that you have such an incredible impact. For you to have 283,000 followers on Instagram, it says that your message is resonating with people. And I honestly, I was doing a fanboy thing when I got able to actually connect with you, and you agreed to be on my podcast. So thank you again.
I'm so happy to be here. Yeah, I love it.
All right. So listen, we wanted to give you a chance to really tell a little bit about yourself, and then we want to get into some of the questions that we have.
Yeah, of course. So I help men through subconscious trauma, which what the heck is subconscious trauma? It's basically just the behavioral patterns created in your childhood that you don't understand are still impacting you. And I chose to work with men because they didn't have a huge support system. And honestly, they were the only ones reaching out to me for help when I started this business 4 years ago. So I saw that there was a need, and I just stuck with it. And now here we are 4 years later, and it's the best decision I ever made.
Yes. Well, I know that I have watched several of your stories, your reels on Instagram, and how impactful they have been to me. So when we talk about childhood trauma and inner child healing, at what point do you think someone needs to start the process of inner child healing?
Well, I think at any point in time, you start the process of observing your behavior patterns.
Okay.
If you want to improve in life. Inner child healing will come into play if you really can't figure out where the behavior pattern is coming from. If you have voices in your head that are very negative, if you struggle with a lot of procrastination or what do they call it? Imposter syndrome, that's usually when inner child healing comes into play, because it's usually the inner child responding to old parental cues that bleed into adulthood.
Okay. All right. Well, I know for a fact that current behavior can have its root in childhood trauma and childhood wounds. And I've seen where things are repeated, like when it keeps coming up, that to me shows that it was seeded in the childhood and then it needs to be addressed. So, do you think that someone can actually take on inner child healing alone, or do they need to get some help?
I think everybody benefits from help, because if you could solve it, if you could see it, if you could solve it, you would have already, right? We can't always see the things that are in our subconscious. So you can address consciously some things that you are seeing, but it's usually the things that we don't see that mess us up, right? A lot of people know what's wrong with them. Okay, then why haven't you fixed it? Obviously, there's something there that you can't see that's still preventing and blocking you. So just have somebody give you the cheat code.
Okay, all right. So if you have somebody in your life that's, let's say, they have something that they're struggling with, how do you point that out to them in a way that they will be more receptive to doing the work or getting the help that they need?
You don't. It's not your job. It's not your job to point out to people that you love or anything that they need help, because how is that helping them? It's helping you, right? So it's a very selfish endeavor to look at friends or family and think that you know more than they do about their own healing journey. If they are seeking help, of course, help them out. Of course, tell them what your perspective is. But it's not our job to look at people around us and suddenly be the judge of their journey. That's my perspective.
Okay, all right. Well, hey, so when it comes to the help that people need for their own healing, how can we assist somebody if they come to us and say, hey, look, I'm struggling with this, I need some help? What do you suggest we do to actually help get them to a better place and a better space in life?
So if someone seeks you as a support system, the best thing you can do is listen and maybe ask questions. But the most healing thing for a person is feeling heard and understood. And feeling heard and understood doesn't mean getting a bunch of advice dumped on them. It doesn't mean getting interrupted when they're having a breakdown and being told, oh, you're going to be okay, it's fine. Just be quiet and ask questions and be curious about their journey. And if you don't have the tools, if you've never been trained in counseling or therapy or CBT or anything like that, guide them towards a therapist. Create space for them to talk about what's going on, and then lead them in the direction of a trained professional. Because we come with our own set of biases and projections, no matter how much we try. So the best thing that you can do, the most healing thing, is to just be quiet and listen, because they're going to feel heard and understood. And then they're going to take whatever you have to say to guide them seriously. If you just interrupt them and give them a bunch of advice and start talking about your own story, you make it about you. And that makes them feel so rejected and so unheard, and they'll probably never open up again. And they'll never get help.
Wow. That is some valuable information. So I have noticed that there are a lot of individuals now that are talking about mental health, and even men more so now. It's making it more commonplace. So how do you adequately create spaces like that for men? And I'm talking in particular you, because as you mentioned before, you are a men's mental health advocate. So how do you create spaces like that where men feel comfortable enough to open up and to share?
Well, let me ask you, what made you feel comfortable enough to look at my content and then want to invite me on to the podcast?
Well, what made me feel comfortable enough is because I resonated with your message, with a lot of things that you were sharing and what you were highlighting. They really spoke to me and spoke to what I was dealing with and what I was going through. And so even in an environment to where men are together, because most of the times men are at a peacock show, they're trying to, strut around and show who has the, the biggest, the better, in fact, the most costly. But behind all of that facade, there are a lot of men that are hurting, that need help, that need someone to talk to and someone to reach out, someone to really hear them and hear what they're going through. And so what I've learned is, being vulnerable, in fact, myself, in those situations that will allow individuals, to understand that, hey, this guy's trying to help himself. Maybe I need to do the same thing.
Well, there you go.
So I answered my own question, right?
Well, I mean, only you can answer that question because I am a woman creating the content, not a man observing it. So I think I try to do exactly what you described, exactly what you're resonating with, is reach down into a place that men don't often feel validated, and to create content around that, and not just content, but try to embrace a little bit of healing material in there, where that validation will serve a purpose instead of just like ego stroking.
Right. Well, I know for a fact that having those types of environments have really helped me. And I've started in small group environments like that. And I really want to help, again, start the conversation about men's mental health, and not just men's mental health, but our mental health in general. And again, in fact, the reason that I wrote the book and I spent time in the book is because I would see patterns of behavior that just kept coming up and they kept resurfacing. And the end result was that this didn't happen last week, this didn't happen last month or last year. It was something that was seeded, something that actually happened that may have been traumatic or may have been a wound that kept showing up. So when you consider all of the content that you've created, what do you feel is the most impactful, at least from what you've seen from your audience?
I think my audience really resonates with the relationship content and not feeling validated or appreciated enough in their relationships. I think a lot of men feel cast aside and put last. I think they feel like they give everything in relationships and they don't really receive much back. And really, it's quite sad because they feel abandoned by their partners, but the number one person who's abandoning them is themselves. So there's a lot of men who witness their own self-abandonment in relationships. And the goal of the content is to help redirect them back to their own self-care.
Okay. And self-care, I know, is truly important. And, I actually started my own personal development journey because of that, because I wanted to understand more about myself and to actually be in a better place. I honestly believe that we have to want better for ourselves, because if we don't think we deserve better, then in fact, we're not going to put in the work. We're not going to take the time to actually get to where we need to be. So I guess the only other question that I have for you today is, when it comes to rallying people around a particular cause, especially in reference to mental health, how do we in fact solidify that in a society in which we live? Because we have so many things vying for our attention, so many things that are pulling for us. And if we believe that mental health matters, if we believe that people need to take a time, to actually do self-care and actually check on themselves, how can we, in your opinion, how can we champion that cause?
Well, when you're talking about rallying people to a cause and championing them to a cause, I think the last thing on your mind should be, how do we rally? And I
Okay.
think that the main way to get people to rally is to pick a cause that speaks to your heart and just dive deep into it and become an expert at it. And when you speak to the pain and to the life force of that cause, the people will follow and the people will rally whether you like it or not, right? Just like Jesus, like he didn't worry about getting the whole world to follow him. In fact, he told people, like, don't believe me. I'm going to say these parables, and then people followed him, right? Maybe that's not a good example, but like, for your message, certain people will hear it and they will feel called to follow, and then they will spread the word for you. But if your message is so focused on how do I rally, you're not focused on the right message.
And that's true. And I guess my actual wording wasn't the best, because I know for myself, personal development is a cause that I honestly believe everybody should actually take on. And so that's one of the reasons why it's one of the focuses and actually an actual passion of mine, because like my slogan is, I'm Saucony Prince of SauconyPrince.com. We make motivation personal by introducing you to yourself, because I honestly believe that a lot of people have yet to really take that journey and actually look at themselves and see their own value and see what value they have and what value their value brings. So I try to use my passion for personal development to help people to actually look at themselves in a different light and actually show up as the best version of themselves. So with that being said, listen, I want to thank you for being on our show. If people wanted to follow you, how could they find you? How could they connect with you?
I am anywhere at Elisa Micheals, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Micheals spelled Micheals. And if anybody DMs you, it's not me. It's probably a scammer looking to read your tarot cards. That's not me, though.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, I do again want to thank you for taking your time to actually be on our show and for your incredible insight. And in fact, before we get out of here real quick, I do have to run another sponsorship from our sponsor, BetterHelp.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. First, you go to their site. You can use my link, betterhelp.com/SauconyPrinceHeal. You answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional who's had years of experience helping people with struggles just like yours. You can do it all from your phone or your computer, via a phone call, a video chat, or messaging. However you feel most comfortable. It is the easiest possible way to start talking to a therapist. You'll be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours, so you can get started fast. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you, all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/SauconyPrinceHeal or choose Saucony Prince Heal during your sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month.
Well, this is Saucony Prince of SauconyPrince.com, and I want to thank you for joining with us on this podcast, Heal, and we will see you on our next episode. Talk to you later.